When the humans walked away from the peace talks, silence fell across the stars. The Galactic Council thought they could control everything, but now, strange shadows move in the darkness and ancient secrets wake up. Could this be the end of peace forever? Or will a hidden power rise to change the galaxy? The truth will shock everyone who dares to watch until the end. Asterisk, the stars above the Galactic Council's capital glowed like cold, watchful eyes. The Council chamber, a giant dome of shining crystal and floating light, was full of powerful beings from every corner of the galaxy. Giant insect-like diplomats from the hive clusters clicked their mandibles nervously. Tall, blue-skinned warriors from the Orion tribe stood still as statues. Misty shapes of energy, older than planets, shimmered near the council's center. All of them waited for one thing: the final peace agreement with the humans. In the middle of the chamber, the human delegation stood silent. They were different from the others. Their faces showed anger and sadness. Their eyes were full of stormy thoughts. Their leader, a tall man in a dark uniform with Earth's golden emblem on his chest, stepped forward. His boots echoed on the polished floor. Every alien fell silent as his voice broke the cold air. "We came here with hope," he said. His words were clear, simple, and full of pain. "We offered trust. We wanted peace." The council members shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered in their own languages. The oldest among them, an ancient being of living crystal, tried to speak, but the human leader raised his hand. The hall froze. "But peace cannot live in lies," the human said, his voice growing stronger. "We know what you did. We know the truth you hid from us." A wave of shock spread across the chamber. Beings that had lived for thousands of years felt a cold fear in their hearts. The misty elders pulsed with worried light. The insect diplomats clicked their claws. The Orion warriors gripped their weapons. The humans looked around the hall with eyes like fire. "No one controls us," the human continued. "No one uses us. You thought you could invite us here, smile, and keep your secrets. But we found your betrayal." He took a small data crystal from his pocket and placed it on the council's central table. A bright hologram appeared above it. Images of secret council meetings flickered in the air. Deals made behind humanity's back. Plans to weaken Earth's colonies, lies told to keep humans under control. The truth glowed in the crystal light for all to see. Gasps and angry growls filled the hall. The council's leaders shouted over each other. The sound grew louder, more chaotic. Lights flashed, languages clashed. For a moment, the chamber felt like it would explode with rage and confusion. The humans stood calm, like silent statues. In a storm then, in a single, sharp motion, the human leader turned his back on the council. One by one, the other humans followed him. They walked through the wide golden doors of the chamber. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of doom. When the doors closed behind them, the sound of their boots faded into a heavy, endless silence. No one moved. No one spoke. The Galactic Council, once proud and united, sat frozen. Every alien diplomat felt a dark question rising in their mind. What do the humans know that we don't? What are they planning now? In the shadows above the chamber, small, flying cameras continued to record everything. Across the galaxy, millions of beings watching the live broadcast saw the humans' final words and their cold exit. Rumors started spreading faster than light. Markets crashed. Fleets were put on alert. Old enemies whispered about war. Some council members feared that ancient prophecies were coming true. Deep in the minds of the council's oldest races, memories of legend stirred. Stories told of a time when humans would leave the table of peace and the stars would suffer. These tales were told to scare children, but now they felt real. The council realized they had underestimated the humans. They saw that they had lost not just trust but control. and far away, in the dark reaches of space, the human fleet began to disappear from known space lanes like ghosts fading into the night. Their last transmission to Earth was short and chilling. The Council chose lies. Now we choose our own path. The Galactic Council's greatest fear had come true, not a war declared openly, but a silence more dangerous than any weapon. The humans were gone, and the galaxy would never be the same. Silence hung over the grand chamber like a heavy, choking fog. The humans were gone. The golden doors stood closed, their surface reflecting the pale, nervous lights of the council dome. For a long moment, no one dared to speak. Then, like cracks, spreading through glass, whispers turned into shouts. The council's mighty hall of peace became a place of chaos. The High Chancellor of the Orion Tribe slammed his massive fist on the table, shaking the floating data screens. His deep voice roared through the chamber. The humans insulted us. They have no right to question this council. His eyes, dark and sharp, darted around the room, searching for agreement, but only fear looked back at him. Across the table, the queen of the hive clusters hissed, her many eyes wide with terror. "You fool!" she snapped, her voice clicking like knives. "What if they found something? What if they have proof of our old mistakes? What if they know the truth about the betrayal of Sigma Prime?" Her words made even the bravest warriors shudder. Sigma Prime was a name never spoken in public, a planet the Council had sacrificed long ago to protect their power. A thin, ancient being of living crystal floated above the table. Its shimmering body pulsed with pale light. "Peace must be restored," it whispered, its voice like soft bells. "If the humans share their knowledge with the galaxy, they will break our unity. Millions of worlds will turn against us. We must find them. We must stop them." Panic spread through the chamber like fire. The insect diplomats screamed in their own clicking language, their words overlapping in confusion. Energy beings flashed with angry light, sparking arcs of plasma in the air. Council guards stepped forward, weapons humming, afraid of an outbreak of violence even among their own allies. The Council's secret intelligence chief, a tall figure hidden behind a mask of polished obsidian, raised a hand. The room fell quiet. Again, though the fear still buzzed like a storm. His voice was calm but deadly. "We underestimated humans. We always saw them as impulsive, emotional, easy to manipulate. But they are clever. And now they are angry." He walked slowly around the table, his boots echoing on the shining floor. "Remember the old prophecies," he continued, voice low. "They say the children of Earth will one day leave the Council's light and walk in the dark, where they will become something new, something no one can control." His words made everyone uneasy. The oldest members of the Council felt the weight of forgotten legends pressing on their minds. The youngest members whispered in fear, stories they had heard as children flooding back, stories of humans rising to challenge the stars, of wars that would set entire galaxies aflame. The queen of the hive clusters turned her many eyes to the intelligence chief. "What do you suggest?" she demanded, her voice sharp and trembling. "We must find the humans before they vanish completely," he replied coldly. "Their fleets are already gone from our main sensors. But if we send scout ships now, we might track their trail. If we let them disappear, they could be planning alliances, building weapons, preparing for something worse than war." Suddenly, a low alarm hummed through the council hall. A floating screen blinked to life, showing live feeds from star systems across the council's territory. Reports scrolled in fast and frantic. Human ships seen at the edges of council space, then vanishing without a trace. Human colonies going silent, as if they had evacuated overnight. Communications blacking out. Energy signatures appearing, then fading like ghosts. The panic grew louder. "Are they hiding?" shouted an Orion warlord. Are they preparing an assaid tearing an attack? Cried a hive noble. Voices rose until they sounded like a storm tearing through the hall. In the middle of the chaos, the ancient crystal being glowed softly. Its gentle light contrasted with the harsh shadows of fear around it. The humans came to us with hope, it whispered, almost to itself, and we crushed it with our secrets and greed. Now the darkness they walk into is one we created. These words silenced the chamber again. Everyone felt the truth in them, and everyone knew it was too late to take back the lies, the betrayals. The hidden deals. Outside the council dome, the night sky above the city glittered with thousands of stars. Somewhere in that endless darkness, the humans were already moving, planning, and disappearing into the void. Their silence felt like a blade hanging over every council world. The Galactic Council, once confident and proud, now sat trapped in their own fear. They had not just lost the humans, they had lost the fragile balance that kept the galaxy from tearing itself apart. The question on every mind, spoken or not, burned like fire. What will the humans do? Across the stars, a cold wind of fear began to blow. From the shining capital of the Galactic Council to the farthest mining colonies on dying moons, everyone heard the same terrifying news. The human fleet had vanished. Not a single ship remained on any council sensor. Like ghosts, the humans had faded into the blackness of space, leaving only questions behind. On the bridge of the council's main scout cruiser, Commander Ralter, a scaled reptilian officer with eyes like burning coals, stared at the empty star maps. His claws clicked on the glowing controls as he zoomed in on the Sol system, Earth's home. But every probe sent there showed the same thing: silence. Earth's orbit was empty. Lunar bases were dark. Space stations hung like dead husks in the void. Scan again. Ralter barked, his deep voice echoing across the silent bridge. There must be something. A signal. A distress beacon. Anything. But his crew, pale with dread, only shook their heads. Every sweep came back cold and empty. Ralter clenched his fists. He had been told humans were impulsive but predictable. But this was like chasing shadows in a nightmare. He opened a channel to the Galactic Council, his voice tight. With fear, Council Command, this is Scout Ship Vesper. Humans have abandoned their system. All colonies in the Sol sector are dark. We are picking up strange energy readings on several moons and asteroid belts, unknown signatures, unregistered in Council databases. Deep in the grand halls of the Council, his message was broadcast onto giant floating screens. Leaders watched. As flickering images appeared, burned-out colonies, empty cities on Mars, abandoned space elevators swaying silently above dead planets. Even Earth's blue oceans looked strangely empty from orbit. The silence felt alive, like something waiting. Breathing in the darkness, the queen of the hive clusters slammed her claws on the table. Where did they go? She hissed, her many eyes shifting nervously. How can an entire fleet and thousands of colonies vanish overnight? Her voice rose in pitch, fear sharp as a blade. A tall, dark Orion warlord leaned forward. His eyes glowed with suspicion. They planned this. Humans are not as simple as we thought. They have hidden technologies, alliances we never guessed. They could strike anywhere. We must prepare our fleets. The ancient being of crystal pulsed with pale light. War will only spread chaos, it warned softly. And chaos is what they might want. We must understand what they are planning. More reports arrived from scout ships. In Alpha Centauri, human stations were dark with signs of rushed evacuation. In Proxima b, the Council's probes found entire cities emptied. Lights still glowing, but no life signs. Even deep space mining colonies, once full of workers and robots, were silent and cold, as if everyone had left at the same time. Among the ruins, strange energy signals were recorded, pulses of unknown frequencies, patterns that made Council scientists uneasy. Some suspected the humans had built devices to jam sensors or hide their movements. Others feared these signals were traps, weapons waiting to be triggered. In every Council world, fear spread like wildfire. Markets crashed as traders panicked over rumors of war. Civilian ships crowded Council spaceports, begging for permission to flee to the core worlds. Old enemies of the Council watched with greedy eyes, sensing weakness. The balance that had held the galaxy together for centuries trembled on the edge of collapse. Back on scout ship Vesper, Commander Ralter felt something deeper than fear, something close to respect. He remembered meetings with human officers, their quiet confidence, their sharp minds, their fierce loyalty to each other. He realized the Council had always seen humans as naive newcomers, useful tools in their political games. But now he saw the truth. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but also united, determined, and dangerous when betrayed. In the Council chamber, the intelligence chief stood again, his masked face reflecting the swirling lights of the crisis screens. The humans have slipped into the shadows of the galaxy, he said in a low voice. Where they go, we cannot see. What they plan, we cannot know. But remember this. They are angry, and they will not forget what we did. His words settled over the hall like ash from a dying fire. Silence fell. Even the bravest warriors and oldest beings felt the same icy thought curling in their minds. What if the humans were not running away, but preparing to return with something the Council could never stop? Outside the Council capital, the stars seemed darker than before. Somewhere hidden by the cold veil of space, the humans moved like ghosts, leaving behind only fear, mystery, and a silent promise that the age of Council control. Darkness filled the Council chamber as the floating lights dimmed to a cold, uneasy glow. Every member sat silent, their eyes fixed on a single image projected above the grand table. A faded scroll, thousands of years old, covered in symbols. Older than any star chart. The Council's oldest race, the crystal beings known as the Ethelians, had kept this prophecy hidden for generations. Now, for the first time in centuries, it was being read aloud. The ancient Ethelian elder, a being of shimmering crystal with cracks of deep purple running through its form, floated slowly forward. Its voice was like the soft ringing of 1,000 tiny bells, yet every word echoed with a weight that made even the fiercest warriors hold their breath. In the time of fractured trust, it recited, when the children of the blue planet turn their backs on the light, the stars themselves shall bleed, and the darkness will rise to swallow all. A cold shiver swept through the chamber. Some younger Council members shifted uncomfortably, trying to laugh off the old legend. But no one could ignore the fear creeping into their hearts. Around them, live reports flickered across the walls. Attacks on Council outposts and distant star systems, carried out by unknown ships moving like shadows. Whole settlements burned without warning, leaving only wreckage and silence behind. The queen of the hive clusters clicked her mandibles in panic. These cannot be humans. Our sensors show nothing. No transponders, no broadcasts. These ships appear from nowhere, attack, and vanish before any fleet can respond. A Council general, tall and armored in dark silver, slammed his gauntlet. Hand on the table. Our patrols are blind. Our ships are slow. We are fighting ghosts. And every time we try to follow, we find only empty space. Another projection appeared, showing recent star maps with red marks blinking across dozens of systems. In each place, the same pattern repeated. Power grids destroyed, communication relays cut, trade convoys ambushed. The attacks moved like A spreading infection, random yet frighteningly precise. The ancient ethylene continued, its voice growing softer, sadder. The prophecy speaks of betrayal planted like a seed, watered with lies, grown in shadows. And when the blue planet's children walk alone, they will awaken things older than stars, powers hidden in the dark places of space. The words chilled everyone in the chamber. For the first time, even the youngest council members realized this was not a simple political mistake. This was something deeper, something that had been waiting for a spark. And the humans' departure had lit the fire. Reports kept pouring in. In the Tarani system, ships disappeared in minutes, their distress signals cut short by static screams. In the Zenthis belt, mining stations exploded from within, with survivors reporting glimpses of strange shapes moving in the smoke shapes that looked human, yet moved with impossible speed. In the Inara Nebula, entire research fleets vanished, leaving only drifting wreckage. As the Council tried to piece together what was happening, panic spread like a storm. Civilian ships jammed hyperspace lanes, fleeing worlds near the attacks. Trade routes collapsed. Supply shortages triggered riots on dozens of planets. In the council chamber, arguments turned into shouting matches. Old allies blamed each other for failures. Fists slammed tables. Weapons were drawn, then lowered, as fear twisted into anger. Amid the chaos, the masked intelligence chief stood, his voice cutting through the noise. Whether these attacks are from humans or someone using them as a shield, the prophecy is unfolding, he said coldly. If we do not act, we will lose control of the galaxy. The ancient ethylene floated higher, casting long shadows across the grand hall. Or perhaps, it said softly, we already have. Outside the council dome, the endless night of space felt different, darker, heavier. Patrol ships moved nervously through empty corridors of stars, their crews jumpy, weapons primed at every flicker on their scanners. Even the great cities of the Council's homeworlds, once proud beacons of peace, grew quiet as citizens whispered. About the prophecy, about humans, about the shadows coming closer, and somewhere far beyond the Council's reach, in the silent darkness between stars, the humans watched. Their ships hid in asteroid fields and drifting nebulae, engines cold, sensors focused. They saw the Council's growing panic. They heard the rumors, and they waited, patient as hunters in the night. The prophecy's words rang like thunder in every mind. When the children of the blue planet turn their backs, the stars will bleed. And now, it seemed, the bleeding. The darkness between the stars grew thicker than ever before. Across the Galactic Council's vast territory, fear was now more common than light. In system after system, Council outposts reported the same terrifying pattern: sudden, silent attacks by ships no one could see. Fleets of invisible enemies slipped past the Council's powerful sensors like whispers in the night. In the Charayan system, a fortress world surrounded by defense satellites and massive warships, alarms blared without warning. The Council soldiers scrambled into battle positions. Blinding flashes lit up the dark sky as explosions ripped through communication arrays and power stations. But on every screen, on every radar, there was nothing, no sign of attackers. Only chaos. Commander Yalvik, a broad-shouldered Orion warrior, with silver skin and eyes like steel, stood on the command bridge of his flagship. He shouted orders, his voice shaking with anger. Find them! Fire on anything that moves. But his gunners fired at empty space, their weapons blazing into the void. No ships appeared. No enemy responded. Still, more explosions rocked the fortress, cutting power and plunging entire cities into darkness. On the Council's main communication hub, a frightened technician's voice crackled over an emergency channel. We're being hit from all sides. We can't see the attackers. "Systems are failing, please. Anyone help us." The message ended in static. The Galactic Council, once the galaxy's strongest force, felt powerless. In meeting halls across the stars, leaders demanded answers. Some shouted that humans had developed cloaking technology beyond anything seen before. Others whispered darker theories, that humans had woken ancient forces lost to time, or made alliances with races hiding in the black corners of the galaxy. At the Council's intelligence headquarters, the masked chief paced before a giant star map glowing red with fresh attacks. "This is not random," he said quietly, his voice cold and deadly. "These strikes are precise. They hit our command centers, our supply lines, our eyes and ears. This is not just rage, it is a plan." His words sent chills down every spine. Every council member knew the truth. Someone was cutting the council's power, piece by piece. Meanwhile, survivors of the attacks told haunting stories. On the mining moon of Tethra, workers hiding in tunnels swore they heard footsteps in the darkness and saw shadows moving like phantoms. On the lush world of Sorila, sensors picked up strange human voices echoing through empty forests before communication towers exploded. In the skies of Draken V, pilots ejected from burning fighters said they glimpsed shapes like human chips, shimmering briefly before disappearing again. Every rumor fed the growing terror. Humans had become invisible predators. Civilian ships panicked. Refugee fleets clogged hyperspace lanes, begging Council patrols for escort. Worlds once loyal to the Council threatened to secede, blaming the Council for bringing this wrath upon them. Some races prepared to switch sides, hoping to survive by allying with whoever controlled these deadly invisible forces. Inside the Galactic Council's Grand Chamber, the Crystal Elder's soft light flickered weakly. "The humans are not attacking. Randomly," it whispered, voice trembling like old glass. "They are choosing their targets. They are sending a message." "But what message?" The Hive Queen snapped, her many eyes wide with fear. "That we are weak? That they will hunt us until we beg for mercy?" The Orion warlord leaned forward, his voice a low growl. "No," he said slowly, thinking of every report, every calculated strike. "They are showing us they don't fear us anymore." Silence fell over the council. Outside the chamber's high windows, stars glittered coldly over the city's towers. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of even the council's most advanced scanners, human ships waited like wolves hidden in a moonless night, and in the shadows of distant asteroid belts, in the dark clouds of uncharted nebulae, human fleets moved quietly. They drifted with engines cold, keeping radio silence, their pilots watching and listening. Each squadron carried orders not to attack openly, but to strike where it hurt the most, to blind the council, to break its spirit, to make its leaders doubt every sensor reading. Every report, every heartbeat of the council's leaders echoed with the same terrifying thought. What if every star, every darkness they thought was empty, now hid a human fleet waiting to strike? The council's strength had always come from fear, but now it was the council that feared the silent, invisible enemy, and that enemy, born of their own betrayal. The council's grand chamber, once a symbol of order, felt like a cage. The air was thick with fear. Arguments flared, alliances crumbled, and blame spread like poison. Every new report of invisible strikes shattered the council's confidence. Further, but deep in the council's ancient archives, hidden beneath layers of forgotten security codes, one being searched for answers that could save them or doom them completely. Archivist Eldrin was old even by the standards of his crystalline race. His translucent body was etched with lines like cracks of frozen lightning, and his pale blue eyes held memories of ages past. As battles raged and panic rose across the galaxy, Eldrin floated alone among towering shelves of ancient records. His delicate hands moved over dusty data crystals, each one glowing softly with secrets. At last, he found it, a small black crystal buried under centuries of newer files. He lifted it carefully, feeling a cold energy radiating from it. He placed it into an ancient projector. The hologram flickered to life, casting a dim light across the dark archive. Lines of old agreements appeared in the air treaties signed at the dawn of humanity's rise to the stars. And there, among promises of peace and mutual aid, was a secret pact, written in words no council member had dared speak aloud in over 100 years. The pact detailed a guarantee that humans would be treated as equals in the council, their colonies protected, their rights respected. In return, humans agreed to support the council's rule, to be loyal partners in maintaining peace across the stars. But hidden in the next lines was the council's true betrayal, a plan to break that pact when humans grew strong enough to challenge their control. Secret strategies described how to sabotage human trade, isolate Earth politically, and weaken human alliances. It was a blueprint for betrayal. Eldrin read every word, horror growing in his heart like a black hole. He knew what this meant. The humans had discovered this ancient betrayal. That was why they walked out of the peace talks. Their silence wasn't arrogance. It was a message, a warning. And the attacks now sweeping across council space were not random revenge, but a carefully planned response. He rushed to the council chamber, doors flying open with a crash. Every eye turned to him. His voice, soft yet sharp as crystal, rang through the hall. "We have brought this upon ourselves." Gasps echoed among the council members. Eldrin floated to the center of the chamber, the black crystal held high. "This is the truth," he cried. "A pact we broke. A promise we betrayed. The humans offered peace generations ago. We chose lies, and now we pay the price." The room fell deathly silent. Images from the black crystal hovered above them. All signatures of council leaders long dead, maps of secret operations, records of sabotage. The past unfolded in cold light, undeniable and brutal. Younger council members looked at their elders with horror. Elders bowed their heads in shame. The queen of the hive clusters trembled, her many eyes flickering with rage and fear. "We did this," she whispered. "We planted the seeds of war. We made the humans our enemies." The Orion warlord clenched, his fist so tightly his armored gloves cracked. His voice, once thunderous, now shook. "We thought we were clever, but we were fools." The masked intelligence chief stood still, his mind racing. All his strategies, all his plans were worthless. Now, he had assumed humans acted out of anger alone, not understanding they had proof that could destroy the council's legitimacy across the galaxy. His voice came out flat and hollow. "If the humans release this, every world will rise against us." The ancient crystal elder glowed dimly. "Then perhaps," it said, voice heavy with sadness, "we deserve it." A sudden alert cut through the silence. Screens around the chamber lit up with a new message, broadcasting from deep space, a transmission from a lone human ship. On the screen appeared the human commander who had walked out of the peace talks. His eyes were hard as stone, his face set in unbreakable determination. "We offered peace," he said quietly. His voice was calm, yet carried a power that made even the bravest warriors swallow hard. "You offered lies. We do not seek conquest. But we will no longer bow to those who betray us. The galaxy will know the truth. And the Council's age of control is over." The message ended, leaving only silence and the coordinates of a dark, distant region of space flashing ominously on every screen. Coordinates pointing to a place long considered cursed, a place where ancient forces were rumored to sleep. Panic spread like fire. Every council member understood. If humans had retreated there, they were preparing something unimaginable. And if they shared the truth with the galaxy, rebellions would ignite on every council world. Their empire would crumble. In that dark moment, every leader realized the same terrible truth. They had not only lost the humans, they had created a new enemy. And this enemy was smarter, angrier, and more determined than anyone could. A cold, endless silence settled over the Galactic Council's capital. Stars shone like distant eyes in the night sky, as if the universe itself was watching, waiting. Across the galaxy, every council world stood still. Markets froze, warships hung motionless, and billions of beings held their breath. Then, without warning, a lone human ship appeared in the darkness above the Council's grand homeworld. Its hull was black as the void, edges glowing faintly with blue energy. It moved, slowly, fearlessly, ignoring the thousands of cannons locked onto it. No fleet escorted it, no allies flanked its sides, yet the Council knew it had never felt so threatened. The ship began to broadcast. Every council ship, every planet, every station received the transmission. Screens across the galaxy flickered to life, showing the face of the same human commander who had once stood in the Council's great hall. His eyes were cold and clear, his uniform dark and unbroken by medals or symbols. Behind him, a starfield glowed, endless and empty. His voice rang out, calm yet carrying a force like thunder. "We offered peace," he began, every word slow and sharp as a blade. "We came with trust. We believed in a future where every race could stand together." Across countless worlds, beings of every shape and size watched silently. Children pressed against glowing screens. Soldiers paused on battlefields. Counselors stood frozen in meeting halls. The commander's eyes burned with a quiet, controlled rage. "But you chose lies," he continued, voice dropping lower, filled with sadness that cut deeper than any weapon. "You chose fear over honesty, power over friendship. You thought you could control us, that we would accept your betrayal." His gaze seemed to pierce every listener's heart. "Now," he said, leaning slightly forward, "you will watch the cost of your own choices." A star map appeared next to him, a spiral of light showing the entire Council's territory. Then, a blinking red mark pulsed far beyond the Council's outer borders, a dark region known only in old myths. The map zoomed in until the coordinates glowed bright and menacing. "Here," the commander said quietly, almost whispering. "This is where it begins." Screens cut to recordings of the same dark region. Shadowed shapes moved in drifting nebulae, massive ships, blacker than night, bristling with unknown weapons. Fleets hiding among dead stars, their hulls cold. Engines silent. Symbols of ancient, almost forgotten civilizations glimmered faintly on their armored surfaces. A coalition of darkness gathered in secret. On the Council's homeworld, alarms wailed as panic spread like wildfire. Ships scrambled. From docking bays, families fled into shelters, and council guards rushed through streets crowded with terrified civilians. The masked intelligence chief stood rigid in the grand hall, fists clenched. His voice came out as a hoarse whisper. "We have awakened something we cannot fight." The queen of the hive clusters trembled, her voice high and thin. "The humans were never alone. They found others in the dark. Old enemies of the Council. Old ghosts." The Orion warlord looked at the red coordinates pulsing on the central screen. His eyes narrowed not with anger, but with something close to respect and fear. "They are not coming to beg," he said grimly. "They are coming to decide the future." Meanwhile, on billions of worlds, ordinary beings stared at the final image, the dark region of space, coordinates burning red in the cold night. They whispered among themselves, rumors growing faster than light. Was it true? Had the humans gathered an unstoppable force? Would the Council's age end in fire? Back on the human ship, the commander's face returned to the screen one last time. His eyes softened only a little, shadows of sorrow dancing in their depths. "We did not want this," he said quietly, "but we will not run. We will not bow. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who trade peace for lies." The transmission ended with a flicker. The human ship turned away from the Council's homeworld, engines igniting with a silent, blinding blue light. It vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only cold stars and a galaxy trembling on the edge of a new age. The council chamber stood in silence. Leaders looked at one another, faces pale with shock and horror. Somewhere deep in every mind, the same question echoed louder than any alarm. Is this the end of our rule? Or just the beginning of something far worse? And as the dark coordinates continued to pulse ominously on every screen, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same again. But what came next? Only time and the shadows